Thinking about where and what you've been through, the good, the bad, and everything that's happened to you. Now is not the time to quit. You can handle it, and you can move on from here. Life has a way of trying to break us down. Situations seem like they won't turn around. Now is not the time to quit. You can handle it, and you can move on from here. You can get up. You can get up from this. You can get up. You can get up from this. No matter how long it's been, you are destined. You are destined to win. You can get up. Now is not the time to quit. You can handle it, and you can move on from here. You can get up. You can get up from this. You can get up. You said that you had enough. You can get up. Oh, you can get up from this. You will come out of this. It's now time for you. It doesn't matter where you've been and what you've been through. You are getting ready to get up because you have what it takes. You were designed by God to be able to get up out of every situation. I want you to look within yourself and say, you know what? I am getting ready to get up. My situation just turned around. But here's the word for you. The word for you today is God's gonna make a way. You can get up. You can get up. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Pastor C. Porter, the pastor of Christ Community Fellowship. the place where we're loving Christ and loving people. I want to welcome you to my 10th pastoral and birthday celebration. We are in a difficult and challenging time, and in different times, it calls for different methods. And so I thought it not robbery to do things differently. Yes, I could have had a church service. Yes, I could have done things. But in this season, I wanted to try a different approach. I wanted to bring some great minds together, two great minds. In particular, we have Pastor E. Dewey Smith and we have Bishop George Bloomer. But what I need you guys to do tonight for me, it's my 10th pastoral and my birthday. So I need everybody, lottie dottie, everybody. I need you to begin to tag people. I need you to comment. I need you to share. If you're on our YouTube channel, I need you to subscribe. I need everybody to begin to take part in this celebration. So I need your help tonight. Come on, I need your help. Come on, let's like, comment, share, and subscribe. Tonight's conversation is going to be in depth. It's going to be very challenging, thought-provoking, insightful, and empowering. We have some of the best minds tonight. I am so honored tonight that God has been good, great, and kind to me. Been able to celebrate 10 years of pastoring. I'm grateful to God. He looked beyond all of my faults, all of my shortcomings, all of my inadequacies, and he still allows me to do my assignment. I'm grateful that I have three amazing children who support their father in ministry. I wouldn't be here tonight, you guys, if my father, my bishop, he's not only my spiritual father, but he's my natural father. If my bishop did not see fit, my father did not see fit to see that I was called and qualified to serve God's people. I love them dearly. And to my church, the one that allows me to be me. I told my church recently, I told them that the biggest mistake that I made in my pastoring thus far is that I spent too many years trying to show them what I was not instead of being who God had called me to be. You are enough. And when I realized that I was enough, when I realized that God had called me to do it the way he had called me to do it, I didn't have to be like anybody else. I did not have to spend time being like everybody else. All I had to do was to be myself, and to the church that allows me to be me, the one that allows me to have a discussion on my anniversary and my birthday instead of having a party. Thank you for your support. Thank you for believing in the vision, and thank you for supporting me. I want to bring my guests on the screen tonight. I want to go ahead and bring them in tonight. I am so grateful. I'm so grateful to have great friends tonight. Pastor E. Dewey Smith, I see he's already in. Come on, bring Pastor E. Dewey in the building. Come on and bring him in. I am ready to talk to my friend. My friend is in the building. Pastor E. Dewey, how you doing, man?
I'm fine, Pastor C. Porter. How are you, man?
Man, listen, I am doing great. Dewey, you know you are my guy. You are the leader of the House of Hope in Atlanta, Georgia. You are the hope dealer. You're the hope dealer, and I'm the people's pastor. See, that's what they call me. I'm the people's pastor, and you're the hope dealer. And so we have you here tonight, and I'm so glad for our friendship, man. We've been friends for quite a while. Thank you for joining us tonight, man. Thank you for hanging out with your boy.
Hey, it's my pleasure, my honor, man. Happy birthday to you. Hope you're enjoying this year. I know you probably can't celebrate like you normally would, but happy birthday to you. And happy 10th pastoral anniversary, man. I remember when you were getting ready to start this. So it's amazing that it's been 10 years. And so that means one thing in particular, you're getting old, my brother.
Well, I am Dewey, but guess what? I am not old as you, my friend. I am not old as you. But let me tell you, this conversation is going to be real good. I brought you in, and then I brought my other man in. My guy is in the building, Bishop George G. Bloomer. He's the senior pastor. He is the senior pastor of the Bethel Family Worship Center in Durham, North Carolina. Bishop has been so insightful to me over the years. Bishop set me down. I don't even know if he remembered it. Bishop set me down. He said, this is how you're supposed to do your money here. This is what you're supposed to do on the first Sunday, the second Sunday, the third Sunday, and the fourth Sunday. He is known all over the world as the general of warfare, but I call him privately. He don't even know he has this nickname. See, I'm the chief encouragement officer. You're the hope dealer, E. Dewey. But Bishop Bloom is known to everybody as the general of warfare, but to me, he's the king of clarity. He is the king of clarity. He knows how to say it. What's up, Bishop?
Thank you so much. Can't nobody say it better than E.
That's not true, sir. That's not true at all.
How you doing?
I'm great. Good to see you.
Good to see you. How you doing, man?
I'm good, Bishop. What about you?
This is fantastic. This is a fantastic day. I'm excited. I'm excited.
Well, I'm super excited and super elated to be able to have a conversation. The Bible says, "Come, let us reason together." There is a quote. There's a quote and a saying that preachers have a difficult time dialoguing because we are so committed to monologuing. And so tonight, I want to have a conversation with two great minds tonight. We are in some difficult and challenging times all over the world. And I'm pastoring from a different context. Each one of us are pastoring from a different context. But I just want to talk to you and just ask this question. I want to come to you first, Bishop Bloomer. Bishop, how are you doing in this pandemic? You personally, as a leader, how are you doing?
I'm doing, I would have to say, quite well. I'm doing quite well. When the pandemic first started, in my mind, the first thing that hit me was the end of the world. We out of here, and because when you dabble in deliverance and in spiritual warfare, and you don't do it properly with clarity, you attract a lot of crazy people. And so I'm not saying that my ministry is full of crazy people. I'm just saying that my ministry is full of crazy people. And so the organic crazy people you can deal with, the ones that are taught to be crazy, those are the dangerous ones. And so when it first started, we have to, but I was in television, and I was already ready, prepared to move from the brick and mortar to the click and order. And so that was fine. And keeping the membership together, it put me on every day, and then Zooming with the congregation and Bible study from my house and all different types of things. And so I experienced for a little while the Numbers 11, where Moses has all these people, and the people are crying for meat, and they want a service, and da. And Moses says, God, why did you put me in this situation? Am I their mother? Why do I have a breast that they can suck from? If you cared anything about me, you wouldn't have put me in this predicament. And if you don't like me, kill me now. I felt that type of thing. And now that it's lifted, I think that the Lord is transitioning in us into a place that none of us are prepared for, and we're not going back to church how it used to be. This is going to be a whole different piece, and I think I'm good.
Okay, well, good. Dewey, how you doing, my friend? You have an amazing task there in the city of Atlanta. There's a lot going on right now in the state of Georgia. How are you managing Dewey, the person, my friend, the one I pick up the phone and you say, "See, Porter, don't do that. See, Porter, don't start that." How's my boy doing?
It's been a journey, man, to say the least, particularly because, when you love your people and you want to serve in the fellowship, I'm a country boy, Macon, Georgia. So I love the fellowship, I love being around people. And so initially it was a challenge, man, just not being able to gather, and then it got more intense, I think, for me personally, because we have a lot of older people in the congregation.
Wow.
And the numbers in Georgia initially were astronomical in terms of people suffering with COVID. And so when you talk about doing funerals by Zoom, you talk about, having graveside services of people who've been faithful, only 5 or 10 people. It was heartbreaking because you want to celebrate people's lives who have been faithful, and it made me ask questions. I'm like, God, I know death is a part of life. And I know death is a part of life. And I know you got to take some people, but it made me just wonder, Lord, if you just got to take some people, I wish you'd have a conversation with us first, with me first. And if you need somebody, let me make some recommendations of some people, if you got to take some people. So, but seriously, it was painful just because not being able to be there for the people, you know what I mean? And so that was a major adjustment because, when it's death, man, you can't go to hospitals. Can't have funerals, people who need you, and you can't be there. So that was a tough pill to swallow, because I think since my mom and my sister and my best friend and mother-in-law all died 4 years ago, 28 days apart, it's given me more of a heart for people, like during those types of moments, and to see death after death after death after death and can't be there. Back in October, I had 4 cousins, all brothers, to die within 1 month of COVID. 4 brothers, 1 family, not being together. So that part was tough. So what I tried to do is just reimagine ministry and find other ways to serve. And so still getting through it, man. But I miss the people terribly. I miss the people terribly. Yeah.
Well, many times people think that preachers, pastors are superhuman. We get talked about in the community. I'll tell this, I'm a PK. I'm a PK. And, the first time I heard something negative about my father was from somebody in the streets. They asked me, they said, "You a preacher's kid? Your daddy's a preacher." He said, "Does he steal the money?" This is what they said to a child. I didn't know anything. All I knew is that my parents were sacrificing to build the kingdom of God. The mistreatment of preachers, I know we're in the news all the time. I tell my church our vision statement is loving Christ and loving people. And I have to remind them, I am a person. I am a person. So why is it that people look at us like we're not human, Bishop?
I don't know. I mean, if you're going to join up, if you're going to sign up for this gang of preachers, the initial stigma is that we eat chicken, steal money, and chase women. And I don't get it, but I've learned how to focus in on what God has given me, and not to present, and I hope I don't get anybody bothered by this, but not to present myself at any time as being perfect. I am a chronically flawed individual who loves God. And I believe that we've come to a time in the world where people are willing to receive a man of God with flaws, as long as he is honest about it and he keeps it out of their face. And if we do those 2 things, people don't care about what you're doing. They don't care about what's happening to you. I'm sorry, they don't, until they're made to care about it. And well, things that are in place that makes people care about stuff that people don't care about.
Right. Dewey, you, like me, PK. Now you leading a major church. Why is it the stigma attached to us, especially in the African American community, when the church has been the staple of our community? It's the only institution really that we own as Black people. We have a few universities, but it's the only institution that we actually own. Why do they treat us so bad?
Well, I mean, in a real sense, I mean, this is a part of what we agreed to do. If you talk about the prophets, you talk about Jesus, you talk about Stephen being stoned, you talk about Elijah being fearful of his life with Jezebel, you talk about, James being beheaded, Peter being crucified with his head down and feet up. It's par for the course. And I just think we endure hardness as good soldiers. I think sometimes inevitably we people see the glamour. People see you, or they see a Bishop Bloomer preaching all over the world and want to, admire that and emulate that. They see the glory, but they don't see the story. They see the accolades, but they don't see the warfare. So I just think when you're anointed, you are a target, you know what I mean? And to not only deal with stuff that's external, but your own internal struggle. So I don't think we should be, what Peter said, thinking our strange. I think it's just a part of who we are, and even our master, the one we preach about, got crucified. Yeah. When you think about all the prophets, they've all struggled. They've all had to endure issues. So I just think, unfortunately, you would think people have more of an appreciation, but I just think it's par for the course, in my opinion.
Yeah, and in our community, we can see that mental illness is at an all-time high, and it impacts leaders. It impacts secondary leaders and primary leaders. And I think for me, where I sit, I sense a spirit of insensitivity, where We just want to get ours, even as it pertains to us who are in the clergy. I am grateful that I have great relationships with people. And sometimes you look like you can lean on people, but those are the ones that are ready to kill you because they want to take your place. Backstabbers.
Yeah.
That's what they desire to do. So Dewey, how do we navigate as primary leaders, knowing that even as part of our assignment, but those who are close to us, those who we call colleagues, it seems instead of us complimenting one another, we're competing, but we're in a pandemic. We need to learn to come together. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think relationships are the currency of the kingdom, and when you have proper relationships and discernment, I just think it's important that we really ask that God will place people in our lives. And unfortunately, that's been such a dog eat dog kind of mentality that has made us be more insular. When you think about the civil rights movement, churches and leaders, whether it be SNCC or NAACP or SCLC, some of the conventions, they had a tendency to work more together. But I think we're just fearful and distrustful of each other now, because most 80% of the time, either a preacher is trying to compete with you or cremate you. So it's hard to find that genuine camaraderie, that David Jonathan type of fellowship. And I just think we got to be prayerful about it. We also have to be intentional about being relational. Part of the challenge is once I think we've been burned by somebody, and once you've been betrayed, it just shuts you off. It's a trick because it shuts you off from any kind of fruitful and meaningful relationship. And I don't know. I'm thinking a lot has happened in the pandemic to strip us all of crowds. Yeah. So now nobody can brag about how big your conference was. Nobody can brag about how many people are in your seats on Sundays. So it shut it down to a point to really make us get back to the main thing. And so hopefully the spirit of humility to realize now when we get back to worship, if anybody's in the church, it's a blessing. You know what I mean? So maybe some positivity can come out of this, because now we don't have to compete, because won't be any big conferences for a while in terms of public gatherings. Won't be any big choirs. We may be another year from choir singing again. So maybe it'll make us get back to the main thing and do ministry and not be against each other.
Bishop, what say you?
I think the problem is the Jonathan and Nathan and the misunderstanding of the relationship between David and Jonathan. We teach, and we have teach down through the years, that David and Jonathan was, real close, and they had each other's backs, and we preach on the covenant without reading the text. And encrypted in the text is a powerful story. The story is that Jonathan goes to David and he says, listen, I know my dad is after you. My dad is going to die. You're going to be king. I'm going to be your second. And so that becomes the covenant. Then he leaves and he goes and tells his dad where David is at. He's the only one that knows where David is at. He's dwelling in the woods. And so David begins to write strategically about this relationship that goes on between him and his friend, who is genuinely his friend, and they have a genuine relationship. But the system requires that if David becomes king, all of the royals must be put to death. And so the system is set up to put us against one another. And so David says that, when he comes, we speak of vanities, but when he goes, he tells it. He's talking about, there was 5 times that out of the 8 times that Saul caught up with David. And all of those times, the only person who knew where he was at was Jonathan. And if you begin to read the text, so things can happen. I've seen in Christendom, in the buddy system amongst us, things going well, and we're cool, and then we get a call to preach on a platform, and our buddy can't handle us mounting, going up. Can't handle it. He loves us, but he can't handle it, because in his mind, that should be me. And he's mad at me that I didn't tell the guy who put me on the platform about him. Well, the guy knows about him. That's why he didn't call him. He called me. And so and then we play it out like we cool and we buddies and so on. So there's a little story, underlying story in that whole thing. And David decides at the end of the day that I'm not going to do to my partner what he did to me. And so after Saul and Jonathan dies, he goes and he finds Mephibosheth and finds out that Mephibosheth with messed up legs and messed up head has a son. There's two others, and he brings them in and he protects them by breaking the rule of killing all the royals. And I think, Porter, we got to get back to the place of understanding the gift that the person has, and they have to be become very, very comfortable with who you are and what God has given you, and not look on another man's plate. And if you can do that, you can be very, very successful. I'll tell you a quick story. This preacher had asked me to introduce him to a great preacher, and I did. So I introduced him to the great preacher. The great preacher comes and ministers for him. They have a great time. In their repast, the preacher that asked me to introduce him to the great preacher says to the great preacher, well, I like to have a personal relationship with you. I got 10,000 members. Bloomer got 400. So the great preacher turned and said to him, yeah, I get you. You might have 10,000 members and George Bloomer might have 400, but George Bloomer is known all over the world and you're not known across the street. It's in that moment when those things begin to happen that you have to have the person that understands how to keep the thing together. And those kind of things happens all of the time. A new acquaintance knocks out old, real close relationships. And we got to stop that. That's just me talking. And I don't take down pieces. Don't do it. You're not getting me in a room, in the back room, carrying on, because I'm an old drug dealer, crack addict. So we don't do that.
Well, as we are navigating this space, we have to deal with our mental health as leaders, our physical health. We have to deal with the stress and the strain of ministry, our families, our outside business ventures. And it's important that we learn to take care of ourselves. I like the definition of self-care. Self-care is giving the world your best, not what is left. That means at the end of the day, when I come out to do something, I have to make sure that I'm taken care of so I can give you my best. And I think sometimes we have tried to give everybody else what they need, and we have neglected ourselves. Now we're in a pandemic. Things are shifting. Church has shifted. And I begin to ask God, I said, God, what are we supposed to be doing now? My fear is that when we go back to church, we're going to go backwards. When we go back, we're going to go backwards. Because we have this idea, if we don't do it this way, it's not church. If the choir is not singing, this is not church. And I think that is going to mess us up as a community because things are changing. We are the ones that are getting hit. And God has given us this creative insight. He's given us wisdom. We have done more with less for years. And now we have to refigure how we lead people. Dewey, what are some of the things that we need to do as leaders to retool in this new age as we are moving forward?
For me, I think that's a great question. I think one of the things it should cause us to reassess our teams, to reassess who we really have. How flexible are they? How much creativity do they bring to the table? Because one of the things that showed me is that, and I've talked to a lot of leaders across the world, carrying people who are not really benefiting in adapting to what's happening now. So I think we're gonna have to reassess our teams in terms of who do we have on the team that can adapt to these new times relative to the next level of ministry. And so are you carrying people needlessly? Because our resources, and I think you said something earlier about doing more with less. Maybe it was a time for us to really reassess what do we really need. Bishop Bloomer talked about the system. Sometimes we just do things because it's how we've always done them. But what are we doing that really has to be continued? Does it make sense to keep having the church open for all these meetings and utilities and people coming out for meetings when you can use technology and actually reach more people now than you could before? And so if the creativity is not there, And so for me, I'm having to really look at our team and say, what do you bring to the table? You know, maybe the season that you were sent to serve is up. Because the reality is seminaries, conferences, we were trained to minister to a world that no longer exists. And so I think we have to reimagine where we are now, because it's not the same. And if we stay stuck, keep trying to put new wine in old wineskins, you know, you're going to spoil the wine. And so for me, the biggest thing right now is to reassess where we're going. And then the second piece is, how do we present our identity virtually? I think a lot of guys have really complicated this, but 21st century ministry post-COVID will be the presentation of identity through virtual technology. And if you can put your head around that, and I think it's another good time for us to also incorporate some of the younger people. Millennials and Gen Zers have not been connected to the church. We've been talking about millennials the past 5 years. Maybe this is a great time for us to incorporate them into what we're doing, because they understand the digital space. They understand social media. Maybe it's an opportunity to reacclimate and have a digital, social, technological revival to get them back involved in the presentation of the message just through new means. So the message is the same, but the methodology has to change. So I just think it's time for us to reimagine. But it's easy, as you said. I think it's very easy to revert back to where we were. And as you and Bishop Bloomer have said, to do that, I think is going to put the church and every spiritual organization on the verge of extinction, because we're not going back to that.
Right. Well, Dewey, you said something about the technology piece, and Bishop Bloomer has been in television for a long time.
Indeed.
And Dewey, I'm so grateful to see that your creativity has been at work when you created Hope TV. When you created that entity for your church, you put everything that you guys had online, and you created Hope TV to serve the thousands of people that you lead. How important, Bishop and Dewey, I come to Bishop first, but how important is the investment in technology as it pertains to the context of the church that we do? Okay, let me put it to you this way. When we look online, the smaller churches, when we look online trying to figure out how to go online, we can see Bishop Bloomer has an LED wall. We can see that Dewey has the LED wall and all of this, and they have the camera. They have this shot. They have all of this, but they don't see what goes in behind it. They don't see the work that goes in producing. I think I don't want to start no mess. Bishop Bloomer's on the line. He can help me. I think that the church as a whole, in some contexts, we have become high praisers but low producers. High praisers, we're giving praise, but we are not producing. So, Bishop, how important is it that we invest in technology as we display the gospel, our packaging? You're big on packaging. Talk to us tonight. Talk to some preacher tonight who needs to understand the importance of investing in media and the package of what God has given you.
I want to go back to what Dewey said with regarding to reassessing, figuring out what we need, what we don't need, and pulling your team together. In Numbers chapter number 11, around the 16th verse, I think that's in the Message Bible, and it says, "And God said to Moses, gather 70 men amongst you, leaders of Israel, and men who you respect and are responsible to you, and bring them into the tent, and I will meet you there, and I will speak to them, and I will place the spirit that's on you on them." The problem that we continue to have is that we got all these people who got a personal relationship with God, all these people who God is speaking to, but they don't have the heartbeat or the pulse of the leader. That's the first thing to me. The second thing is my 70 would be 8 guys. 8 guys in my 70, and they know George Bloomer. When they step into a room, my omniscience is there. George Bloomer is in that room. They don't question me on things. They hold me accountable, but they don't question me. They know me. If I did it, they know me. If I didn't do it, they know me. And that has brought success to me for 39 years. 39 years of ministry. That has brought success to me. And those guys are still with me all of those years, because ever so often we go to the tent and another part of my spirit is placed on them, and then they carry it down the pike. When it comes down to logistics, technology, the world changing, things happening, we serve a God who the evening and the morning is the first, the second, the third, the fourth day. So God always creates the day of the day before. So my day of and my day before was Red Hook Projects when I was slinging. And one day I went to the store to get some bags to put my stuff in, and they had just come out with colored bags, different colored bags. And I was upset because, I had to put pills in it, and I had to do a little coke, do my thing. And I was sitting in the room, cutting my stuff, putting it together, these different color bags, blue, yellow, orange, and green bags, Ziploc bags. And I was upset about that. And then something kicked in and said, call them fruits. So I called them fruits. The yellow was pineapple, banana, or lemon. The orange was orange. The cherry, the red was cherry or pomegranate, whatever and I called them. Listen, people would come to me and they say, Doc, you got any oranges? No, I ain't got no oranges. All I got is bananas. Man, I hate bananas. Same thing in the bag. Same thing in the bag. Product, package, promotion, distribution. I learned that on the corner. That was my day before until my day of got here. So when I function in ministry, the first thing I look for in ministry is the product. Now, please, pastors who are listening, don't get upset. The product in your church is not Jesus. He doesn't pastor a church. Okay? The product in your church is you. And if you're not packaged, if you're not the product packaged and promoted and distributed properly, you're going to have some issues. And so technology now teaches me different things. It teaches me it's sort of like the thing on the little engine that could. And I think I can. And he's trying to make it up this witch collar, but if he goes up by himself, he gets nowhere. He's got to be able to pull the cart and make the train with the caboose on the back of it. And in the middle between the engine and the caboose is the cargo. And the cargo is where the value is. So you have to figure out what your strength is, and then what kind of power do you have to pull? Which brings us back to the team. I dropped out of school. I just learned how to read. I got my GED when I was 47 years old. But my team put me in place to be a best-selling author. My team helped me to get the 71 books written. My team got my real estate thing in place so that when this thing happened, so on and so forth like that, I didn't have to worry about a check coming from the church or hooking up with people to get an appointment at somebody. I don't care about preaching at nobody's church. I like to, but if you don't, it's okay with me. It's the day before that deals with the day of. And I think that God is preparing us right now for the days to come. And so technology for one guy is going to be different from the others. LED screens is not for everybody. If everybody don't have that money, but they got a cell phone, they got an Apple, and they got a Zoom, and they can put those virtual screens behind them. They just need to figure out where they're going, who they are assigned to reach, and go at it. I'll tell you a quick story and I'll be quiet. When New Birth came up, I was Eddie Long's son, one of the sons that never left him no matter what the situation was. When New Birth came open, the committee came and they said, what you think about coming home? I said, how many members at the church? I said about 7,000, but we're seeing between 3,000 and 5,000 on a weekly basis. I said, let me tell you what I can do for you. Let me tell you what I can do. I can take those 7,000 people. And one of the persons said, well, you're gonna have the balcony full. I said, listen, hold on. I can take those 7,000 people and bring them down to 400. That's what I told him. Why do you say that? I said, because I know exactly what my assignment is. I know exactly what my assignment is. I'm not trying to be a mega pastor, I am assigned to have a mega ministry. Joyce Myers ain't got no members. Benny Hinn ain't got no members. I can go on and on and on. The guys ain't got no members. Got private jets.
Dewey, you have said on numerous occasions one of your favorite sayings, if you are small enough, long enough, God will make you big enough soon enough. That's what you said. That's what you said. That's what you said to me, my friend. Like you said, I've said that to you, my friend.
That's true.
But if I'm trying to invest and all I can see is what everybody else is doing, I find conflict because I want more, but I'm not there yet. I say it like this: you can't be big when little got you.
But I think Bishop Bloomer just said something that's very, very heavy, and I hope people caught it. You know, I think we measure big enough in terms of numbers, but big enough is about capacity and it's about assignment. You know, just because somebody has 100 members does not mean the ministry is not mega. And I think what has happened to us is we have taken a caricature of a few churches that we see on TV and online and think that's the norm. The average church in America is 75 to 100 members.
Amen.
And so, you know, most African-American pastors, 70% are bivocational. So what happens is, you know, Paul was a tent maker. So everybody's not going to have full-time ministry. Everybody's not going to pastor 500 people. And people see my ministry now, but 30 years ago, they didn't see me with 20 people. They didn't see me being a piano player. They didn't see me hanging sheetrock. They didn't see me cutting the grass every week. But my mantra was, if I'm faithful over this, then God knows my capacity for more. So for me, I think it's about being effective. And then here's a real big thing for me. I had come to the realization years ago, the real truth, and I want to say this very humbly, and I'll be very honest with you about it. Man, if I only have 20 people in my church that I preach to, that's 20 people more than I deserve. I think we have this entitlement syndrome, like in this grandiose and want to be big, but it's about being effective and making the most. You know, you can look at Bishop Bloomer, look at his ministry and many others, the ones he called, and want to be like that. But can you handle that? You know, you might look at what I'm doing and say, oh man, this is what I want to be. Let me ask you a question. Can you handle a $40,000 a month light bill? Can you pay $100,000 a month mortgage? So you got to be careful what you ask for. So God could be allowing you to stay where you are and the level you are to keep you sane. Because trust me, if you haven't met in 9 months, if you don't have the capacity or the dexterity or the relationships or the gifts of a George Bloom and others that he's named, can you maintain at that level? So for me, man, if you're in the storefront with a $500 a month mortgage and you can meet it and it's comfortable and that's God's measure for you, then thank God. Because the grass looks green on the other side because of social media, but you don't know, you're looking at screenshots of somebody's best picture. You don't know all these Photoshop and Facebook. That stuff is filtered, man. And people become jealous of what they see on social media because they see the best parts of somebody's life. You want that? Can you handle that? Because trust me, the things that I've gone through the last 11 years with this campus, where we are right now, would drive the average preacher insane. So whatever God blesses you with, man, be grateful, be appreciative, and serve your best. And let God take you from glory to glory if you're faithful over a few things. And he determines what's big enough. For some of us, 200 people may be enough. That may be your capacity. And God may let you do the best you can with that, but be effective. And I just think this all trying to, everybody's not going to be Michael Jordan. Everybody's not going to be LeBron James. But you can play in the NBA. So we just you have to find out what is your responsibility, what is your capacity, what is your gift, what is your assignment, and work it and bloom where you plant it. And wherever God takes it, any way you bless me, I'll be satisfied. That's my personal mantra. Many may disagree, but I think that's the best way that God keeps us sane. Because here's the truth. A lot of preachers, preachers are we're amongst the top 3 leading professions of suicides. I think a lot of it has to do with us taking on responsibilities and projects that God never intended. Many of us take on pressures and ministries and trying to be like this one, that one, and to only get ourselves stressed out. And God had nothing to do with the assignment. It was a good idea, but God wasn't in it. And so you get yourself choked up and overwhelmed over something that was your idea, and God was on the outside saying, I never told you to do that. So sometimes less for me is more. Do a few things well, and wherever that takes you, be pleased with it. It may be for your good.
Well, I totally agree with what both of you guys have said, because ministry is so challenging, and we have this eyeball test and this desire to do what other people are doing. But you've got to be great at your level. I've served my father for 16 years as his COO. I'm in 2 cities. Most people don't even know I live in one city, work in another, got a business in another city. I got all of this going on. And all people used to say to me, why don't you ask your daddy for a check to help you do ministry? And all I wanted was the respect of my father, not the checkbook of my father. And I think most guys want somebody to give them something instead of doing the work, because we see other people. Most people don't know. Dewey, do you remember when we met? We met at one of your services. We have a mutual friend. We went out to the Buckhead Diner. I did not even know that Dewey Smith was this big, because he was country just like me. See, most guys just see the glamour, but they don't understand that there's something beneath the surface. And they don't want to be beneath the surface. They don't want to be real. They just want to be the stage preacher. The stage preacher is not going to help us move in this pandemic. You're going to have some depth. You just don't need length. You need depth. And I think if we're going to really make a change and a shift moving forward and not go backwards, we're going to have to eliminate this mindset, because the younger preachers are coming and all they want to do is have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. That's a good thing. Ambition is not a bad thing, but things must be centered. And you guys have been able to navigate. And now we're in a new space, and you're having to relearn things. You're having to ask different people. And so what I'm trying to say at this point, how important is it that we create authentic content? Not something that somebody else is doing, but I'm talking about authentic content that reaches the millennials, that reaches the baby boomers, that reaches every part of ministry. And you're able to be authentic, not trying to be somebody else, anybody.
I think it means to pay attention and to watch. When I started in television, they told me that what you need to do is get all of the big guys and get them to come to your program. And I thought to myself, everybody knows the big guys. Let me see if I could start working on exposing what is new. And so I use my program and my platform to bring on pastors who are successful at their level, and people, and then it just grew. In 2 years, sold 1 million Bibles. Now let's think about it. 1 million Bibles at $150 a Bible. That's $150 million in Bibles. As I was speaking to the owner of the network, he says, "Oh, nobody's going to buy Bibles anymore. Nobody buys Bibles. They don't buy Bibles. They get them on their phone." I said, "Listen, if you create the market, people will come and purchase the goods. You have to tell them that holding your phone is one thing, but once a week, holding the Bible, once a week, holding the Bible is advertisement for your church, your ministry." And sit down with companies. You have to watch the trends, see what's happening, and then get in, James Brown says, where you fit in, and then push. Get in where you fit in and push. And so I don't see what other people see. Now, when I went through my challenge and my crisis with the Word Network, 3 other networks came together, put the money up to purchase the network that I have now. Okay, why did they? Because they're watching. They understand that there is some money that they will never, ever be able to get unless there is someone of color standing before that piece there. And I was wise enough from the day before, my drug dealer days, to cut out a part of it for me that locks me in so that what happened to me this time can't happen again. So when you say, how do we? By watching. And one of my power principles out of my power principle book, you see, I keep on doing shameless plugs. Out of power principle book, it says, when you come for wisdom, you do not come with lips, you come with ears. And many times I've sat around these guys who are talking and what have you, and they said, Bishop, and the whole time, this is what they're doing. If you shut up, I can give you a few principles that can help you move the needle. And small is definitely the new big. Small is the new big. My arena is not E. Dewey's church. My arena is my sanctuary. So when I do something, I'm not ashamed of that. That's my arena. And people need to understand that arena is not always a place where there's tons and tons of people. Arena simply means a gathering place. And so we just have to watch what's happening, watch the trends, see what's moving, see what's going on, and be ready to move into that space. And it's going to be crazy. The new voices are not new people. That we're going to emerge out of this. New voices are going to emerge out of this. It's not going to be new people. It's going to be George Bloomer. It's going to be you. It's going to be E. Dewey. It's going to be several of them, because we're going to have a whole new outlook, a whole new war doctrine, trauma doctrine, financial doctrines, how to move and how to deal with things. All that's gonna, if we're watching what is going on. Now, the white folks know, forgive me if they're watching, the white folks know the power of embracing fear. Black people don't know that. Jim Baker is doing $1 million a week selling war food and generators a week. $56 million during the pandemic. They understand the principle of fear. God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of love, peace, and a sound mind. So he's made a sound against the fear that we're going to use to promote us. That's warfare. Being able to play chess is, a preacher came to my office and he said, he saw the chess game. They said, can you play chess? I said, no, I don't know. You don't know how to play chess? How you don't know how to play chess? You're in the spiritual warfare. I said, I just don't know how to play chess. He said, well, I need to teach you how to play chess. But you know the principles of chess. And I said, I really do know how to play chess, but someone bought the game for me. And so I set it up, and periodically people comes inside the room. So another guy came and they were sitting down, they started playing chess. And he turned to me and said, see, Bloomer, you need to play chess. I said, listen, move that game over there for a few minutes because I need to talk to somebody. So they got up and they moved the game over there and they started playing again. When the guy left, I said, this is what I want you to know. I don't play chess, but I tell you this one thing, I determine where the game is played.
Mama.
Wow.
Now, Dewey, the authentic content in this space that Bishop just shaped for us, you created Hope TV with your team. How important is it for a pastor, a leader, to understand that the content that we present has to be real and people have to be able to connect to it? Content, authentic content. How do we do it?
I mean, you said something very open that I think was so key. I hope everybody caught it. You refer to yourself as the people's pastor. You talked about who Bishop Bloomer is to you in terms of clarity and warfare. There's a lane. This is who I am. This is my identity. This is what I do well. You didn't mention family. You didn't mention women's ministry. You didn't mention praise and worship. You were specific about what the assignment, what the identity is.
Right.
When you think about the gospel writers, Matthew writes primarily to a Jewish audience. So that's why he starts the whole narrative, giving you the litany of the genealogy of Jesus, taking you back to Abraham, traveling down 42 generations. Why is that important? because in order for his gospel to be accepted by the Jewish people, he has to attach it to Abraham. Luke writes to present a universality of Christianity. That's why he includes women, children, the oppressed. Two different gospel writers, two different approaches, but both of them are anointed. Luke is not trying to be Matthew. John writes to present the deity of Jesus Christ as the Son of God. So he starts not with Abraham, in the beginning was the Word, and presents 7 miracles to authenticate Jesus is divine. Each of the gospel writers has a specific assignment, and they are clear on that. They made it into the canon because of their authenticity and their specificity. The challenge with us is people will watch a Bishop Bloom or Joyce Meyer or somebody else on television and try to emulate and duplicate that anointing. The problem with that is this: God never anoints counterfeits. And so when you think about it from a sports perspective, I'm a sports guy, played sports in high school, 4 sports from track to football. And here's what I learned about sports. Shaquille O'Neal is one of the most dominant centers. He's my friend, one of the most dominant centers to ever play in the NBA. You know why? Because Shaquille is not trying to play point guard. There were times he bring the ball up the court just to have fun. But if you try to make Shaquille O'Neal your point guard, Shaquille O'Neal would have got cut his first season in the NBA. He's a post man. He's a dominant man. That's what he does. Steph Curry is probably the best shooter we ever seen in the NBA. He come across half court. He'll put it any moment across half court. But if you try to put Steph Curry in the post to be your big man, he won't make it to a D1 school. His gifts, his skill sets, his talents were appropriately placed, and you allow him to be him. It's only in ministry where we think we can choose and adapt and emulate and duplicate and become what somebody else is, never tapping into your own uniqueness. When you think about David, after Saul is dethroned and David is enthroned, God says, go down to Jesse's house and anoint the next king. The initial coronation, David's 7 brothers were invited, but not David. The oil wouldn't pour. It was when Samuel says to Jesse, do you have another son? He said, yeah, I got one. He's out in the back. He said, go get him. The brothers didn't invite him. The father didn't recommend it. But here's the irony. David's oil knew his name, and it would not pour on anybody else except him. The problem in ministry is we try to take the oil that belongs to somebody else and never become who we are. And as a result, many of us keep hitting our head against the wall because we're trying to do what everybody else does. So if you're a rebounder, be a rebounder. See, Michael Jordan gets the credit, but without Dennis Rodman, the Bulls don't win those last 3 championships. Michael Jordan gets the credit, but without Steve Kerr and Jim Paxson, the Bulls don't have 6 championships. In ministry, the problem is we all want to be Mike, we all want to be Shaquille, but don't ask God, show me me. And if I'm Robert Horry, if I'm a bench player, if I'm the role player, whatever you want me to do, just let me be on the doggone team. And I think that's where the authenticity, and if you do that, what God has gifted and called you to do, your oil knows your name and nobody can get your oil. It's your specific DNA. And I just think there's so much insecurity amongst clergy that we don't think we're good enough. We think we got to emulate somebody else. And as a result, we never fully develop who we are because we're trying to be somebody else. So if you Shaquille, be the best Shaq. If you Steph Curry, be the best. If you the role player, be the best you can be. And watch God do in your life, in your ministry, what you were called to do. And I just think that's one of the things. That's what I love about what you said earlier about you and Bloomer. You were clear about what everybody's lane is. And we can all make a mesh and work together if we have clarity. Just accept your lane and say, and then whatever my lane is, I'm authentic to that. I can be real with that and just present that identity virtually. Get creative people around you. You don't need a bunch of money. Right now, you can use a cell phone. You can use an iPad. You don't have to break the bank. You don't need LED walls.
Nope.
You don't need it. You can get your 5-year-old nephew to help you with your media ministry right now.
That's
right.
Think
about it. You want to update your phone, give it to your 5-year-old nephew. They can update the phones, put games on the phones. So we made it more difficult than what it really is. There are a lot of free platforms, and right now, everybody has the opportunity to have an international ministry. Right now, it's viral. But just be who you are. And I think present that identity virtually. And I believe that's where the prosperity and the blessings and the sustainability can come. Because your voice is necessary when you find it. The problem is don't end up like a Zacharias and have spiritual laryngitis.
Exactly. So check this out. Here's a thought when you were talking. Let me be transparent. I'm celebrating my birthday, turning 44. Turning 44. Been through some stuff. But when I left North Carolina Central University, left Durham, I moved to Nashville to pursue my master's. Okay? I moved 2 weeks after graduation. Fall break comes. My younger brothers are freshmen at North Carolina A&T State University. They fly up to see their brother, show them a good time. They're not even in the city 24 hours before we leave the house, leave my apartment, and I'm hit head on by a drunk driver, hit and run, left for dead. Okay, left for dead. Okay? And so what happened to me, that happens to a lot of people when we feel that God has called us to be something. And when we're hit with life, we don't know how to handle it. We don't know how to manage it. And at that age, at 22, I didn't really know how to manage it. So the decisions I was making was really not my decision. It was what I thought I was supposed to be doing. But I was going through and I went to Barnes and Nobles. And there was a book that was for 99 cents. And God sent me to Barnes and Nobles to get my deliverance. There was a book in the bin for 99 cents that said, "Dare to be yourself. Don't be an extra in another person's movie."
Wow.
Dare to be yourself. Don't be an extra in another person's movie. And if we're going to move the needle, we have to have leaders that are going to dare to be themselves and stop being an extra in other person's movie. Stop trying to be like everybody else and get what God has called you to be. Now, here's the challenge. I want to shift it a little bit. I want to shift it. Preaching is a challenge in this pandemic because people don't want to be authentic. People believe that, well, you can't teach it like Bishop Bloomer. You can't say it like Dewey. You've been called to say it like God has called you. But you're hearing other people saying, well, people are not going to listen to you if you up here hooping and hollering. Well, people are going to listen to you if you have something to say. You feel what I'm saying? So preaching and people are saying, well, I don't really want to hear no preaching. I want to hear teaching. Dewey, you are one of my hermeneutical heroes. So I want to throw it to you. And I got Bishop, who I call the king of clarity. Preaching in this age, how is it supposed to move us into the direction that God has called us, the preaching of God's word?
Well, again, I mean, preaching is simply communicating the word of God. You know, there are different styles. You know, you got exegetical, you got topical, you got expository, you got narrative, you got deductive, you got inductive, you got narrative, you got topical exposition, you got narrative exposition. So there are many different styles and methods of presentation. You know, Paul writes with a style. All of Pauline, authentic Pauline literature. There's a salutation, there's a greeting, there's a body doxology. You know, Mark, which is probably the first gospel written, scholars say, quick, 14 chapters. Luke is a medical doctor. So that's why he's more descriptive, giving you prognosis. So when you read the Luke Acts narrative, you see a lot of things about, you know, medical diagnoses. Why? Because that's Luke doing it through his personality. And I think we made it so difficult, but this is what my preaching professor taught me. That preaching is bringing the wasness of the word into the isness of now through the medium of the communicator's personality. So it's bringing the wasness of the word into the isness of now through the personality of the communicator. The reason that why Bishop Bloom is so effective is because he talks about his experiences. He beautifully demonstrated today the things that he has gone through, as you said, in the morning, before the evening in the morning. He's simply bringing into fruition who he was before, all of his experiences. You know, the woman at the well had been married 5 times and was with a man that was not hers. She had experience talking to men. Jesus meets her. She drops her water pots and goes back and speaks to the men. She was already comfortable speaking to men. Jesus, he does not change who she was. And I think what happens is when we don't do it, so if somebody who's just to do planets is comedic, Bishop Jakes likes psychology, Bishop Jones likes a lot of philosophy. Each one of them is unique and distinct in how they communicate. Bishop Blumen's digital warfare, right? So if you watch their presentation, all of who they are, that's an autobiographical sketch that you can find from your beginning to your now. All of who you are can be brought to bear in the preaching moment. I'm historical. I like comedy. So in my presentations, you will hear a lot of history. I'm a linguist. I've been studying Greek since I was 17. You will hear that because that's who I am naturally. So I'm not trying to be anybody else. I say, okay, if this doesn't work, then it's not going to work because I don't know how to be anybody else. So I think what has happened is preaching is simply being clear with presenting the word. Everybody can't hoop it. Everybody doesn't have a tune. And if you don't have a tune or a hoop or a B3 organ, that's fine. You know, just because you are not somebody that's not gifted vocally does not mean you can't preach. And I think what happens now, because of how the African American church experience, we think everybody's got to touch a neighbor. Everybody got to have a B3 organ. Everybody got to be a tune and modulate 5 to 6 times. But it's through the personality and what's authentic. I'm musical. I like a good hoop. I like to carry a good tune, right? And if I can do it, if God gives me the power to do it, I will do it. But that's not the essence of preaching. That's just an idiomatic expression that goes along with the homiletical presentation. But it does not make you less than if you can't do that. So you got a lot of preachers trying to hoop, trying to sing. If that's not who you are, don't do that. So good meat can make its own gravy. And I just think that is an audience that's called to you. However you do it, however God gives it to you, do that. There's going to be an audience that's waiting to hear you. Let me tell you about John the Baptist was so distinct. His attire was distinct. He ate locusts. But guess what? But the people would leave the synagogues to come out to the wilderness to hear this strange looking, strange culinary perspective John, because he had something to say that they were not getting from the priests in the synagogues. So whatever you say, if you're in the woods, if you're in the metropolitan area, if you're in the country, be where you are. And if you do your best in presenting yourself, people will make a beating path to come find you if you're being authentic. So stop trying to figure out, oh, do I hoop it? Do I just teach it? How does somebody else do it? Do I have this? Be yourself. Ask God to anoint you and carry that out. And in my opinion, watch God do the rest. If you want to holler, if it sounds good, holler. But stop trying to be what you're not. But be exciting. Bring the isness of the wasness of the word into the isness of now through the medium of your personality. I think that's the effective way to reach people in the 21st century.
Okay, I'm going to bridge this, and I'm gonna give it to Bishop Bloomer. I was taught to turn the ear into an eye. To turn the ear into an eye. And so, Bishop, you have been able, as Dewey said earlier, you paint a picture, picturesque. We're able to see what you're saying. You have been gifted to turn the ears into eyes. Talk to those who need to get something to understand. What do they need to do to be who God has called them to be in the preaching moment?
There's a story that is told about George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver is effectively known as the peanut farmer, but he was a chemist and all that kind of stuff. And there's a story talking about him, how that in the days of horses and buggies, he goes to the convention, and it's an 8-day convention. They take a barn and turn it into a cathedral. And he found himself sitting up on the platform, staring up into the ceiling because his mind was bothered how preachers strutted their stuff. And he said, he started asking God a series of questions. The first question he asked God, he said, Lord, show me the universe. The Lord said to him, too big for you to understand. And so over the next 4 or 5 months, he's asking God to show me anthropology, too much for you to understand, biology, too much for you to understand, theology, boy, there's too much for you to understand, too much. He said he started feeling like he was crazy and stupid because everything would ask God to show him, God would say it's too big for you to understand. And so he saw some kids eating peanuts. He took a peanut, waved it up into the sky and said, Lord, show me the peanut. And the Lord spoke to him and says, now you've given me something that you can understand. You've given me something that you can understand. and gave him 300 ways to use a peanut. The first thing we have to do is ask God to give us something that we can understand. 1983, Coca-Cola is the largest soda pop company on the planet. 121 nations around the world as Coca-Cola can displayed in their own language. Coca-Cola decides that it wants to change its formula and bring something new. So it changes the formula. It goes to, and all of these people pick it up. And in 6 months, they reject the new formula. So Coca-Cola goes and brings the old formula back. They spent $500 million on the new formula and $500 million in advertisement to figure out that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. 1983, another soda pop company in ruins. Southern Baptist preacher out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, inherits his dad's bankrupt soda pop company, goes into his prayer closet, asks the Lord, give me something I can understand. The Lord gives him a phrase, choice of the new generation. The name of the company was Pepsi. So he gets these cans with bungee jumpers and skateboarders, and he goes after a new generation because he knows that the initial taste buds are locked into Coca-Cola. So he doesn't try to go after Coca-Cola's market. He finds a market that hasn't even tasted Coca-Cola. Millennials and these new groups that are out there, tons of them there. And so he goes and he brings them in and they start going up. He hires Michael Jackson. Remember Michael Jackson, hair caught on fire. He hires Michael Jackson and everybody's into Pepsi Cola. So he gets on the private jets. They go to Russia and he said to the Russians, we want to sell Pepsi here. They said, no, only Coca-Cola. We only sell Coca-Cola here. Only Coca-Cola. We don't sell no Coca-Cola. He comes back. He goes to China. The Chinese people say, how's all Coca-Cola? Mexican, not that poppy, only Coca-Cola. Goes back into his prayer closet. He prays, Lord, give me something I can understand. Comes out of that prayer closet. He goes to New York City, to Madison Avenue, hires an ad agency, jumps back 1 year later on the plane and flies all the way back to Russia and sit in front of Russian Congress and says, I would like to build a restaurant here in Russia. They said, we like American restaurants. We have golden arches. We have McDonald's. What kind of restaurant you going to build for us? He said, a chicken restaurant. They said, we like chicken. He said, with one stipulation. If I build this chicken restaurant, you'll have to sell Pepsi. Mr. Pepsi went and bought Kentucky Fried Chicken, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut. He's not in the business of selling taco pizzas, or he's in the business of selling soda pop. But sometimes you got to do this before you can do that. And when people understand that principle, then what God has given you to understand will baffle everyone else.
My God.
Lord, give me something that I can understand. And when he does that for you, you'll be as satisfied as satisfaction can be. Yes, because I understand it. I'm not trying to do what he's doing. I'm not trying to get up with that one. I am satisfied in what I am doing. Two things I want to say. I think that every person who is watching today should celebrate along with you your anniversary and your pastoral success of the number 10. And 10 is a quite challenging number. It's the number of tests. It's the number of redemption. So many associations with the number of 10. And so I want to challenge your members and folks from our church that might be on the watching party that's watching along with it to just about get ready to prepare themselves to sow a seed into your life tonight to honor you as before we go off. I got to jump on another prayer call. Look, we working more now.
That's true.
Than we were. That's the first thing. The second thing, while you're preparing to sow your seed, I went to preach at a church, and several of us is on the ticket. So you got this one, that one, the other one, and we all got names. You're on the ticket. And so you go to these churches, they tell you come to preach, and you say, how many's going to be there? It says 1,000 people, and you get there is like 123. And 18 of those are infants. It's supposed to be 1,000. And so I went in and I ministered. And when I was leaving, another friend of mine who's also on the ticket called me, and he said, man, how did it go tonight? I said, it went fantastic. He said, how many people were there? And I said, about 120. He said, they said it's supposed to be 1,000. I said, yeah. Yeah, but it was 120. Well, what did you do? How did the offering do? And I said, the Lord blessed tonight. We did about 10,000 something. He said, what? I said, yeah. He said, well, I'm going to have to revamp my message and what have you. And I said, why? Go in and give the people what you got. He looked at me and he told me on the phone, he said, listen, man, I'm going to share something with you, Bloomer. The difference between you and me. And I said, what's that? He said, for you, size don't matter. That's what he said to me. That was a blessing to me, but a curse for him. Because the place that he goes and there's 3,000 people sitting there, he still winds up raising 8,000, 9,000. How is it, Lord, give me something that I can understand? I want to challenge 100, 200 people tonight. I want to just challenge a few of you to get a seed. Those of you that can sow $10, sow 10. Those of you can sow 20, that's a double, sow 20. A triple, sow 30. A quad, sow 40. All the way up to 100. Some of you can sow 30, some of you can sow 60, some of you can sow 100. I want to bless the man of God tonight with the seed. Is there a way that they can sow? What's the
it's on the screen. It's at the bottom of the screen, Bishop.
Can you say it for me? Ways to give.
Yeah. $. You know how you do it, Bishop. Go ahead and do it.
$. C Porter 76. Zelle PCP
at ccfcares.org.
Yeah, that's what you got to say. That's right. In the name of Jesus, I'm going to sow my seed right now in the name of Jesus. I'm going to sow my seed to you, and I just want to challenge 21 of you right there, get a seed of 100, sow it to the man of God right now. Several of you can do 30, some of you can do 60. Let's be a blessing to the man of God. Let's be a blessing to the man of God. Get that seed in your hand in the name of Jesus and sow it. The seed that you're sowing right this moment, right now, is a seed that is sown today that's going to come up tomorrow. We serve a God. We serve a God that makes the day of the day before. Let's release that in the name of Jesus. And God is going to do extraordinary things for you and your life. I just really will believe that. And I just wanted to jump in. I see one of my gifts is receiving offerings. And I tell you, I was in the same building that you now pastor several years ago at a conference, and their budget for that conference in their own building. This is when Earl Polk was in their own building. The conference, the budget for that conference was $700,000. So go figure. If they didn't rent us with the cameras, I don't understand. It was $700,000, and I was a day speaker, a noonday speaker. And we raised $1 million in the afternoon service with 3,000 people in the sanctuary. We raised the entire budget in one service. While all the big guys was coming through, Kenneth Copeland, all was coming through. They were coming through as takers and not as givers. And I'm speaking to givers tonight, not individuals who are takers. Release that seed. Release that seed into the wisdom and into the knowledge that was dropped in this place. And I promise you, God is going to give you something that you can understand, and it's going to prosper you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. Those who are giving now, definitely do appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thank you for sowing into my life and into my ministry. One of the things that I do understand about giving, the seed leaves your hand, but it does not leave your life. And one of the greatest seeds, one of the greatest resources that we can have is relationship. Is relationship, the seed of relationship. Tonight, I've been able to garner these men tonight because of relationship, not because of anything else. It's because of relationship. And I think we have to learn to be kind to one another as we move forward in this next season. Here's a thought I want to give to you, and I'm going to give it to E. Dewey to close us out tonight. This is what I want you to think about. We have to learn to love people and use things, not use people and love things. We have to learn to love people and use things, not use people and love things. Hey, listen, I'm Pastor C. Porter. I am the people's pastor, the pastor of Christ Community Fellowship, Raleigh, North Carolina, the place where we're loving Christ and loving people. I have been blessed for the last 10 years to pastor an amazing church. I have amazing friends across the country. Thank you guys who are on here. Thank you who are sowing into my life tonight. I just believe what you make happen for others, God will make happen for you. And as we leave tonight, I yield the floor to my friend.
I don't believe that totally. What you make happen for others, God will make happen for you. Because no matter how hard I try, I cannot grow a beard like that.
Well, Bishop, the Lord has been kind.
I
tell you what, He has been kind. He has been kind to me, and
favor and fair.
But it's all over me. It is all over me. And Bishop Bloomer, I appreciate you. Like I said, you are the general of warfare, but you are the king of clarity. And I pray someone took something away from this. You don't have to rust. You don't have to rust. Because always remember, if something rusts and it sticks you, it will contaminate you. And this is not the season for the church to be contaminated. This is the season for the church to thrive and not just survive. E. Dewey, the floor is yours. You can close us out. Say whatever you want to say. I appreciate you, my friend, all the way from the Buckhead Diner to the House of Hope. You're my guy always. The floor is yours, my friend.
Well, I'm honored to be on here with you tonight, Pastor, and I thank God for your 10 years of pastoring and your life. Your life is necessary, and I appreciate you so much for the blessing you are to the kingdom, and certainly, of course, to glean from the wisdom of Bishop Bloomer is always invaluable. And I just pray that everybody who's listening would hear what the Spirit is saying through him tonight to bring about the thing that we all can understand. I guess my closing remarks would be this. Some years ago, when I grew up, I loved watching cartoons on Saturday mornings. I just loved watching cartoons. It was a big deal as a kid. And two of my favorite cartoons, I got to be honest, one was called The Flintstones.
Yes.
And, it was the prehistoric times and the Stone Age, and Fred Flintstone and Wilma and Pebbles and Dino and Barney and Bam Bam and Betty and Mr. Slate in the Rock Quarry. You had dinosaurs of Stone Age. And it was a compilation of the Stone Age and the prehistoric times. So it was a look back at the Stone Age, and people love the Flintstones. It made it several years looking back at prehistoric times in the Stone Age. But then also one of my favorite cartoons was called The Jetsons. The Jetsons was produced in 1962, but it was futuristic in that it was predicting the year 2062.
Yes.
You had George Jetson, you had Jane. First time I saw flying cars. What we're doing tonight, Skyping, smart watches, the Apple Watch, electric cars. All that was taking place when the Jetsons was produced in 1962. It was futuristic. Now, here is the irony. The Jetsons only lasted one season. It only made it one season. Whereas the Flintstones lasted for several seasons. So something which had people looking back at the past, people were more nostalgic. They would rather keep watching what was than to accept the possibilities of what will be. And then when they did the research, the producers, they discovered, why didn't the Jetsons only make it one season? It was simple. It was because the Jetsons was produced in color. And at that time, 80% of American homes was still black and white. And so the Jetsons didn't make it because most people were so comfortable looking and viewing only through black and white. And as a result, the Jetsons didn't make it and the Flintstones didn't. But the Jetsons is more relevant to where we are. The Jetsons is most hopeful to where we are. The Jetsons speaks to more possibilities than the Flintstones. But it only made it one season because people were stuck in the Stone Age and prehistoric times. I said all this to say this, that tonight as we celebrate your 10th year of pastoring and your birthday, and as you've called us together to reimagine ministry, my question to those who are watching is simply this. Are you going to be the Flintstones in ministry? Or are you going to be the Jetsons? Because if you're stuck on being Fred Flintstone and Barney, your ministry is going to be on the verge of extinction. We need less Fred Flintstones and more George Jetsons to reimagine the possibilities of tomorrow. Because if not, we're going to be in rock quarry ministry in a digital, technological, advanced world. So are you the Flintstones or are you the Jetsons?
Well, listen, that sums it up. That sums it up. Are you the Flintstones? Are you the Jetsons? Are you going to rust? Or are you going to adjust? Hey, listen, you guys, we're on the precipice of 2021. We've got to make some adjustments. I know you're ready to get the gifts from under the tree, but those who are leaders, we have to prepare for 2021. And I pray tonight has been a blessing. Again, thank you, Bishop George Bloomer. Thank you for sharing with us tonight. And to my friend, Pastor E. Dewey Smith, the Hope Dealer, thank you so much. God bless everybody. Thank those who have given tonight. Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you. God bless you. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Take care. Peace.
Thank you. Bless you.
Blessing.
All right. Bless everybody.